I'm DigiBro, and this is the Rant Hole, where I rant about whatever my $15 plus patrons want me to. You can become one of those and get one of these. Jalen Harris wants me to rant about platforms trying to censor and get rid of certain content. Really get into the bones of it. Don't fuck this up. Thank you for that classic DigiBro vlog reference. Yeah, the platform's taking people off. It's inevitable, and it's been happening since the dawn of time. I'm not surprised to see these platforms pulling out the rug from under people, and I think the only reason that it's taken so long for some of this to start happening is simply that these platforms are getting desperate, or otherwise are trying to grow. I think in the case of Patreon, a lot of it is that they don't want to have a reputation as being like a safe haven for people who exclusively are making like edgy or against the grain art, even though those are the people who need Patreon the most. Like, of course all of those people are on Patreon because those are the people getting deplatformed. Those are the people who, can't make money through traditional means. They need to have direct contact with the few people who actually want to support what they're doing. That's kind of the point. And I feel like that's who Patreon should be for. But because of the fact that Patreon can be for anyone, that people can take this route regardless of whether they really need it, because of that, Patreon can grow, and it has incentive to keep its image clean, and that's why they're starting to kick people off. And the thing about Patreon is, I'm not, particularly scared about Patreon falling apart because it doesn't seem like something that that should be so difficult for there to be competition for. In fact, I'm shocked there's not more competition for Patreon. Infamously there was Hatreon, which kind of fell apart. That should have been obvious. The fucking title of the thing was Hatreon. It's a stupid name. It was a stupid gimmick. It was obviously only for, people who are so edgy they got kicked off of Patreon to have another platform. But, when you market it that way, no one's gonna want to use it. There needs to be, a legitimate just Patreon, but it's by other people with different values and a different UI, and there's so much to improve on. Patreon is, I don't think it's an amazing platform. I think that it offers a lot of good. Overall, I like it. I obviously use it. I make all my money through it, but if there was a better competitor, I would go to that, I don't know why something like that hasn't emerged yet. And now a lot of people are talking about it because the more people get kicked off Patreon, the more, people who support those people are looking at well, hey, how the fuck can we make a Patreon alternative because this is getting ridiculous? And, the same is true for YouTube. As more and more people were getting kicked off YouTube, we kept going to alternatives. The problem is that these alternatives always develop a reputation for housing that particular type of content, like the people who get kicked. And it's kind of a, they came for the X, they came for the next guys, then they came for me, and there was no one left to defend me kind of situation. It's I expect to be on the chopping block eventually. But I also think that people like me who are fringe, but we don't necessarily cross any particular line because we don't really have an affiliation, I think that people like that will be by the time it gets to us, we will be moving. There will be something else because there are so many people edgier than me that when everybody up to me has been kicked off, that's enough people that people are going to go hey, we need a new platform. I mean, in many ways, and I do not mean this, everybody knows that, I've had drama with Monkey Jones. I don't mean this as an insult or any kind of bragging about him getting kicked off of YouTube, but I really hope that he is the spark, because Monkey is that kind of just a couple steps edgier than me kind of guy, and I think that he was blowing up really big. He has a really dedicated fan base who would follow him, and when I see someone like that, I really think, God, Monkey, I hope you go to somewhere else that we can bring your audience to somewhere, because that's a powerful foot in the door. Because having some weird ultra alt-right pundit get kicked off the platform, people are just gonna say serves you right. People who disagree with the way that he does things are going to go, serves you right, or, oh, that platform's for the alt-right. But Monkey's he's a satirist, you know, like, while he may have proclivities leaning towards that political side, you know, the main incentive he has to portray himself that way is as a satire, because it's the edgiest way to be. And he just tries to have the edgiest sort of opinions. He tries to be like, you know, whatever is the most hilariously dark sort of persona he can be, but people see it that way. People see it as satire. They see it as a parody. And when someone like that gets kicked off, it means a lot more to people than it does when, you know, like an actual pundit gets kicked off the platform. So I think now that we're losing people on the level of Monkey Jones, people are really starting to pay attention. This is why guys like Dick Masterson are being spurned to action, trying to create his own Patreon alternative, creating websites for guys like Monkey. It's like, this is where we need to start, you know, like, we need to start looking at the fucking peer-to-peer networks that we could be moving to. We need to be looking at Patreon alternatives, because this is happening now. This is not a future problem. This is no longer something that only extremists have to worry about. We all need to be worried, and we all need to be doing something about it. And we can. Nobody wants to, because as I said in my YouTube rant, it's just easier to stay here if you can. But we won't always be able to. So, that's your rant.